Have you ever caught yourself making an excuse not to reach for her? Not because you didn't want to, but because you weren't sure your body would show up? I have, more times than I want to admit. I'm 83, and I still wake up most mornings with steady energy. I still take my wife on long walks without stopping to catch my breath, and I haven't backed away from intimacy the way I used to. Not because I'm trying to prove anything to anyone, just because these days my body actually cooperates with me instead of working against me. I didn't get here from a pill some stranger sold me. I got here from paying attention for decades to what actually moves the needle in a man's body as it ages. And one thing I've watched over and over in men my age, the ones who stay steady, who stay confident, are almost never the ones with the most willpower. They're the ones whose blood flow is still working for them. For years, I told myself it was just stress. Then I told myself it was just age. That's the story most of us tell ourselves. It's just age, because it's easier than asking what's really going on underneath. But here's the thing nobody sits you down to explain, not because they're hiding it, but because a 15-minute appointment doesn't leave room for it. Your body runs on 3 systems that have to work together: your hormones, your nervous system, and your blood flow. Specifically, a molecule your blood vessels make called nitric oxide, which tells the arteries to relax and let blood move through the way it's supposed to. When that third system, blood flow, starts losing strength, it's usually the first domino to fall. Not your desire, not your masculinity, your circulation. And that's not a small thing to lose quietly, is it? The sense that your own body has stopped listening to you. I know what that feels like from the inside. The night you invent a reason not to try. The morning you wonder if this is just how the rest of it goes. The way you stop bringing it up with your wife, and she stops asking, and the silence becomes its own kind of distance. That's the part nobody warns you about. It isn't just the body that pulls away. It's the marriage. It's the friendship you built the marriage on. So what actually changes this? Not motivation, not thinking positive. The molecule I mentioned, nitric oxide, is the signal that lets blood move into the tissue that needs it, whether we're talking about your hands staying warm on a cold morning or blood reaching the places that matter most for intimacy. When your vessels can't make enough of it, or can't respond to it the way they used to, everything downstream feels harder, slower, less reliable.
I felt something was wrong with me. It wasn't weakness, and it wasn't just age. Here's what no one ever sits a man down to explain. This isn't about willpower. It's about specific systems in your body quietly losing steam year after year while nobody tells you it's even happening. The pills my doctor handed me gave me headaches, made my chest feel tight, and honestly, they made me feel like I needed a pill just to feel like a man. I wasn't willing to live like that. There's a gentler way to bring those systems back, without any of that. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore. I'll show you exactly what changed it in this video, and if you want the simple support I personally use, there's a free presentation linked in the description below.
Here's what I started doing about 2 years ago, after a lot of reading and a lot of trial and error. Every morning, before coffee, before anything else, I steep fresh ginger root in warm water. Sometimes I add a squeeze of lemon. That's it. No pills, no powders, nothing with a brand name on it, just a root that's been used for thousands of years and that modern research is finally starting to take seriously. Here's why it matters. Ginger has real, documented anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. That part isn't controversial. It's well established in nutrition research. And chronic, low-grade inflammation is one of the quiet things that wears down the lining of your blood vessels over the years, the same lining responsible for producing nitric oxide in the first place. A small clinical trial looked at regular ginger intake and found measurable improvement in blood lipid levels, one of the markers researchers use to track cardiovascular health. Now, I want to be honest with you, because I'm not selling you a miracle. The direct link between ginger and nitric oxide production specifically is still early. Researchers are studying it, and what we can say responsibly is that ginger appears to support the environment your blood vessels need to function well. more through reducing inflammation than through some dramatic spike in one molecule. When you pair it with lemon, you're adding a little vitamin C and a touch of dietary nitrate, and that combination, nitrate plus vitamin C, is one that research on circulation has looked at more directly, because vitamin C helps protect nitric oxide once your body makes it. So this isn't a magic switch. It's a small, daily habit that leans on two things that are genuinely well supported: lowering inflammation and giving your vessels a little more of what protects their function, instead of one flashy claim that doesn't hold up. And I didn't stop there, because one habit alone rarely carries the whole load. Alongside the ginger, I made two other changes that work with it, not instead of it. First, a short walk after that morning drink, even 15 minutes outside if I can, because regular movement is one of the most consistently supported ways to keep the lining of your blood vessels healthy as you age. It doesn't need to be a workout, it just needs to happen, most days, without excuses. Second, I cut back on the second and third glass of wine at night, because alcohol in excess is one of the clearer things that wears down vascular function and hormone balance over time. I didn't quit entirely. I'm 83, I still enjoy a glass with dinner, but I stopped letting one glass turn into three because I noticed how much heavier and slower I felt the next morning when it did. None of these are dramatic. None of them require you to give anything up entirely. They're just three small systems working together instead of one lonely habit fighting on its own, the same way your hormones, your nervous system, and your blood flow have to work together for any of this to hold up. I want to be honest about something else, too. This didn't fix everything overnight. The first week, I mostly just noticed I liked the ritual of it, the warm cup in my hands before the house wakes up, the walk that follows. It was closer to a month before I noticed I wasn't dreading mornings the way I used to, and closer to 2 before my wife mentioned, without me bringing it up, that I seemed like myself again. That's the part nobody tells you. The change is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It just slowly stops being something you have to think about. These days, when my wife and I plan a trip, I don't quietly worry in the back of my mind about whether I'll feel like myself once we get there. I don't dodge the subject, and I don't lie awake running through excuses. I just feel like a man who's still in charge of his own body, and that, at 83, is not something I take for granted. I think about a man named Melvin, 79 years old, from Tulsa, a retired truck driver who wrote in after seeing one of these videos. He told me he'd spent 35 years behind the wheel, sitting for hours at a time, and he'd quietly assumed his circulation was just shot from all those years on the road. He started the same simple habit, the ginger, the short walk, cutting back at night, not expecting much. A few weeks in, he said the biggest change wasn't dramatic. It was that he stopped dreading the mornings. He felt like his body was cooperating with him again instead of arguing with him. I share that not as proof of anything guaranteed, his body isn't your body, but because it's the kind of quiet shift a lot of men describe once they stop treating circulation like an afterthought. Now, I have to say this clearly because I mean it. None of this replaces your doctor, and none of it replaces your medication, especially if you're on something for blood pressure or your heart. Ginger, in large amounts, can interact with blood thinners and blood pressure medication, so if you're on either, this is a conversation to have with your doctor before you start, not after. This is support alongside your treatment, never instead of it. Anyone who tells you to stop what your doctor prescribed in favor of a kitchen route is not someone you should be listening to. Here's what I keep coming back to. Losing your edge isn't really about age, and it isn't about willpower, and it certainly isn't about how much you love your wife or how much you want to show up for her, because I've watched good men, strong men, blame themselves for something their blood vessels were quietly failing to do. The truth is kinder than the story we tell ourselves in the dark. Your body isn't betraying who you are. It just needs a little support to keep doing what it's always known how to do. You still have time to change that story. I did, at an age when most people assume it's too late to change anything.
It won't replace your doctor or a healthy lifestyle. It's simply there to support your body. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore, and it's not too late for you.
If any of this sounds like your mornings, tell me in the comments. I read every one of them, and I'd like to know if this is familiar to you. And if you want more of what I've learned about staying steady, staying independent, and staying yourself as the years add up, subscribe because I've got more of this to share.